Chinedu. Chinedu was born into a humble home in a small village called Umuahia, located in the southeastern part of Nigeria. His father, Dyke, was a proud farmer who worked tirelessly from dawn till dusk, cultivating the family's meager farmland to feed his wife and 2 children. Despite Dyke's hard work and sense of responsibility, the family struggled financially. Chinedu, the first son, was intelligent and ambitious, but the family's financial constraints made it difficult for him to get a proper education. From an early age, Chinedu had to learn how to navigate life's hardships. He vividly remembered the countless times he was sent home from school because his parents couldn't afford his school fees. The teachers would tell him to go home until his fees were paid, and Chinedu would trudge back in shame, knowing that his father had no money to send him back. Often, he would cry alone, feeling the heavy weight of poverty and the constant embarrassment it brought him. As time went by, Chinedu's resentment towards poverty grew deeper, and a burning desire to escape it fueled his every thought. His friends would talk about how some people mysteriously became wealthy overnight, and Chinedu would listen with curiosity. While others were content with the life they had, Chinedu always dreamed of something more: riches, luxury, and the ability to silence the mockery that followed his family. One evening, when Chinedu was just 18, he sat with his best friend Emeka by the riverbank, pouring out his frustrations. "Emeka, I can't keep living like this," Chinedu said, his voice tinged with bitterness. "I see other boys driving big cars, wearing expensive clothes, and yet here I am, struggling to eat. I can't keep depending on my father's farm. It will never give me the life I want." Emeka, sensing Chinedu's desperation, leaned closer and whispered, "There are ways, Chinedu. You've heard of people becoming wealthy overnight, right? These things aren't just stories. There are men who know how to make money in ways that aren't normal." Chinedu's eyes widened. "You mean rituals?" Emeka nodded slowly. "If you're serious, there's a man in the next village who helps people. But Chinedu, this isn't something to take lightly. You'll have to make sacrifices." Chinedu's mind raced. He didn't want to live a life of suffering any longer. He had tried all the legitimate ways: hard work, education, but nothing was working. That night, as he lay on his thin mattress, the idea of money rituals consumed him. The next morning, he sought out the man Emeka had spoken about. The man, a mysterious figure known as Baba Icheku, listened to Chinedu's pleas for wealth. He smiled a crooked smile and told him, "I can give you what you seek, but wealth does not come for free. You must be willing to sacrifice the one thing that is dearest to you." Chinedu's heart sank. He knew exactly what Baba Icheku meant. His father, Daike, was the closest person to him in the world. But at that moment, Chinedu's ambition overshadowed his love for his father. After days of internal struggle, Chinedu agreed to the terms. Baba Icheku explained the ritual. Chinedu would sacrifice his father, but there was a catch. Dyke's body would have to remain in the house, inside a special casket, for the wealth to continue flowing. No one must ever lay eyes on the body, or Chinedu's fortune would vanish, and he would meet a swift and terrible death. With a heavy heart, Chinedu went through with the ritual. A few weeks later, his father fell mysteriously ill and died. At the funeral, Chinedu pretended to be heartbroken, but inside, he was already seeing his future bathed in wealth. His father's death was ruled a natural cause, and the preparations for the burial began. However, as per Baba Icheku's instructions, Chinedu made arrangements to switch his father's corpse with a fake one at the mortuary. He bribed the mortuary attendant to make the switch and secretly brought his father's real body back to his house, where he placed it in the casket Baba Icheku had provided. The fake body was buried with all the ceremony, and no one suspected a thing. As promised, the money began flowing. Within months, Chinedu transformed from a poor village boy to a wealthy businessman. He bought cars, built mansions, and even changed his name to Magic Money, a nickname that signified his sudden and inexplicable rise to wealth. The villagers marveled at his transformation, and whispers of admiration followed him wherever he went. But the secret weighed heavily on him. He kept his father's body in a hidden room in his mansion, just as Baba Icheku had instructed. No one was allowed to enter the room, and Chinedu avoided it as much as he could. However, over time, the smell of decay became unbearable. He tried to mask it with perfumes and incense, but the stench only grew worse. One day, During a lavish party at his mansion, one of his guests, a curious young woman named Ada, wandered into the forbidden room. The door had been left slightly ajar, and she was drawn in by the strange odor emanating from it. When she opened the door and saw the casket, her screams echoed through the house. "Chinedu, what is this?" she shouted, trembling in fear. Chinedu rushed into the room, his heart pounding. He knew what this meant. Baba Icheku's words flashed through his mind. "If anyone sees the body, you will die." Desperation set in. Chinedu tried to calm Ada down, but it was too late. News of the discovery spread like wildfire throughout the village. People started whispering about the strange room in Chinedu's mansion, and soon the authorities were involved. The police arrived and demanded to see the hidden room. Chinedu, knowing there was no escape, confessed everything. He was arrested, and the casket was removed from the house. The smell of his father's decaying body revealed the truth to everyone, and the villagers were horrified. As Baba Icheku had predicted, Chinedu's wealth began to vanish. His businesses crumbled, his cars were repossessed, and his mansions were abandoned. The once praised magic money was now a cautionary tale of greed and betrayal. In his prison cell, Chinedu reflected on his life. He had gained the wealth he so desperately sought, but at the cost of his father's life and his own soul. In the end, the money had brought him nothing but misery. One evening, an old man visited Chinedu in his cell. It was his uncle, an elder in the family. "Chinedu, you had everything, a loving father, a good heart, but you let greed consume you. Now look at where it has brought you." Tears streamed down Chinedu's face. "I just wanted a better life, uncle. I didn't want to live in poverty forever." "Life is not about money, my son," the elder said softly. "True wealth comes from peace, love, and contentment. You can never gain happiness by sacrificing those who love you." Chinedu nodded, but it was too late. The damage had already been done. His father was gone, and his wealth had disappeared. Now, all he had left were the memories of the choices he had made, the choices that had cost him everything. And so, the tale of magic money became a story passed down in Umuahia, a warning to anyone who would be tempted to choose wealth over love, to sacrifice their humanity in the pursuit of riches.